got it. Good luck. Firing.
Top Gun turns 40 in 2026. It made Tom Cruise the biggest movie star on the planet, sold more sunglasses than any ad campaign in history, and turned a $15 million budget into $250 million. But behind the jets and the swagger, there are stories most people have never heard. A pilot who never came home from a shoot, a song that 5 rock stars refused to record, and an enemy aircraft that never actually existed. Before we get started, hit subscribe so you never miss a video like this one. Here are 15 insane facts about Top Gun that will blow your mind. Number 1. Real fighter jets, real danger. The aerial footage in Top Gun is not CGI, not models, and not stock footage. The production used actual U.S. Navy F-14 Tomcats, and the Navy charged Paramount approximately $7,800 per hour just for jet fuel. Real Navy pilots performed genuine combat maneuvers with cameras mounted inside the cockpits. The G-forces were so extreme that nearly every actor who flew in the jets ended up vomiting. Their heads would drop, and when they looked back up, their eyes were rolling. Tom Cruise was reportedly the only cast member who handled the flights without getting sick. The brutal conditions eventually forced the crew to shoot many of the cockpit close-ups on a mechanical rig inside a hangar in Burbank, using spray bottles for fake sweat and smoke machines for atmosphere. But the footage they captured in those real jets is the reason the flying sequences still hold up almost 40 years later. Number 2. It all started with a magazine article. The entire film can be traced back to a single piece of journalism. In May 1983, a writer named Ehud Yonah published an article called Top Guns in California magazine. Yonah had actually ridden in the back seat of an F-5 aggressor jet at Naval Air Station Miramar to experience a mock dogfight firsthand. Producers Jerry Bruckheimer and Don Simpson read the article and immediately bought the film rights. Bruckheimer's pitch to Paramount was simple and unforgettable. He called it Star Wars on Earth. That one magazine article became the foundation for a $357 million worldwide phenomenon. Without that single story, Top Gun, as we know it, would never have existed. Number 3. The MiG-28 does not exist. Those sleek black enemy fighters that Maverick and his classmates go up against? They were not MiGs at all. They were actually American-made Northrop F-5E Tiger IIs, painted black to look menacing and foreign. Real Soviet MiG designations always use odd numbers, and there has never been a MiG-28 in the history of military aviation. The filmmakers invented the entire designation to avoid naming a real Soviet aircraft, which could have caused a diplomatic headache during the Cold War. So every time you see those black jets in the movie, you are actually watching American planes pretend to be the enemy. Number 4. A pilot lost his life during filming. This is the most tragic fact on this list. On September 16, 1985, legendary aerobatic pilot Art Scholl was killed while filming a spinning camera sequence in his Pitts S-2B biplane off the coast of Carlsbad, California. Scholl, whose credits included The Right Stuff and Indiana Jones and The Temple of Doom, intentionally entered an inverted flat spin for the shot. 2 spotters on a nearby boat heard his final radio transmission. "I have a problem. I have a real problem." The plane continued spinning into the Pacific Ocean. Neither his body nor the aircraft were ever recovered. The film's final credit reads, "This picture is dedicated to the memory of Art Scholl." Number 5. Matthew Modine turned down Maverick. Tom Cruise was not the first choice to play Maverick. Matthew Modine was offered the role and declined on political grounds, stating that he saw nothing sexy or romantic about war and did not want to participate in a movie that would glamorize it. He chose Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket instead. Patrick Swayze and John Travolta were also approached before Cruise came aboard. It is almost impossible to imagine the movie without Cruise now, but it very nearly happened that way. Number 6. Val Kilmer tried to sabotage his own audition. Kilmer did not want anything to do with Top Gun. In his memoir, he revealed that he found the script silly and called its themes warmongering. When his agent pressured him into meeting director Tony Scott, Kilmer showed up wearing oversized green Australian shorts and deliberately read his lines with complete indifference. It did not work. He was cast anyway because of a contractual obligation with Paramount from his earlier film Top Secret. Ironically, Iceman became one of the most iconic roles of his career. Number 7. The budget was just $15 million. Let that sink in. The movie that would go on to gross over $357 million worldwide was made for roughly $15 million. That is a return of nearly 24 times the original investment. Even adjusted for inflation, that budget is absurdly small compared to what the film earned. It was one of the greatest financial gambles in 1980s Hollywood, and it paid off beyond anyone's wildest imagination. Number 8. The volleyball scene was barely in the script. The now iconic beach volleyball sequence was not some carefully planned set piece. It was barely scripted, just a single paragraph in the screenplay. Director Tony Scott spent an entire day filming it like a perfume commercial, oiling up shirtless actors under golden light. The head of production at Paramount reportedly threatened to fire Scott for burning an entire shooting day on the scene. But that unscripted, sweat-soaked, slow-motion sequence became one of the most talked-about moments in 1980s cinema. It also became one of the most analyzed scenes in film studies, frequently cited as one of the most homoerotic sequences ever put in a mainstream blockbuster. Number 9. Kelly McGillis hit a hair disaster with a baseball cap. 6 months after principal photography wrapped, Cruise and McGillis were called back for additional love scenes. The problem was that McGillis had since cut and darkened her hair for another project. The solution was brilliantly low-tech. She wore a baseball cap in the now famous elevator scene to hide the change. Once you know what to look for, it becomes impossible not to notice. Also worth noting, McGillis stood noticeably taller than the 5'7" Cruise, so she removed her shoes for most of their scenes together. Watch the bar scene closely, and she is almost always barefoot. Number 10. The famous 500% recruitment increase is actually a myth. This is probably the most repeated Top Gun fact on the internet, and it is not true. The claim that Navy recruitment jumped 500% after the film was traced to a 2004 book that provides no citation for the statistic. Actual Navy enlistment data shows that overall numbers rose about 8.3% that year, followed by a slight decline the next. What is verified is that the Navy did set up recruitment booths outside movie theaters. Recruiters received twice as many calls as usual, and a 1993 survey found that 24% of new recruits cited movies like Top Gun as a strong influence. The truth is genuinely impressive on its own without the exaggeration. Number 11. Danger Zone was rejected by at least 5 major artists. The signature song that most people cannot separate from the movie almost did not happen. Jefferson Starship withdrew from the project. Toto recorded a version but pulled out over a vocal dispute. Bryan Adams declined because he felt the film glorified war. REO Speedwagon passed. Corey Hart preferred to write his own material. Kenny Loggins got the call at the last minute, reworked the bridge and chord progressions, and turned in the version the entire world now knows. It peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, blocked from the top spot only by Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer. Number 12. The lyricist was the composer's car mechanic, Tom Whitlock, who wrote, "The lyrics for Berlin's Take My Breath Away was not some established songwriter. He was working as Giorgio Moroder's assistant and part-time car mechanic. He reportedly came up with the title phrase while washing Moroder's Ferrari. That song went on to win the Academy Award for Best Original Song, one of the most unlikely origin stories in Oscar history. Number 13. The soundtrack outsold almost everything. The Top Gun soundtrack album hit number 1 on the Billboard 200 for 5 non-consecutive weeks and was certified 9 times platinum. In the United States alone, it sold over 9 million copies. Worldwide, it moved an estimated 12 million units, making it one of the best-selling film soundtracks of the entire decade. Number 14. Tom Cruise learned to fly because of this movie. While Cruise was not allowed to pilot the F-14 Tomcats during production, the experience ignited a lifelong obsession with aviation. He went on to earn his private pilot's license, and that passion is the reason he insists on performing his own aerial stunts in later films. Every time you see Cruise flying a helicopter in Mission Impossible, or pulling G's in the Top Gun sequel, it traces directly back to his experience on the original film. Number 15. The sequel took 36 years and nearly died twice. Development on a sequel began in 2010 with Bruckheimer and director Tony Scott. Then on August 19, 2012, Tony Scott died at age 68, just 2 days after scouting locations with Cruise for the sequel. Paramount canceled the project. It was revived in 2013 after a successful IMAX re-release of the original. During the pandemic, multiple streaming companies bid for the rights, but Cruise personally rejected every offer, insisting on a theatrical-only release. Top Gun Maverick finally opened on May 27, 2022, 36 years after the original. It earned $1.496 billion worldwide, becoming Paramount's highest-grossing film ever and Cruise's first billion-dollar movie. It scored a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, compared to the original's 58%, and received 6 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. In December 2024, the Navy awarded Cruise its Distinguished Public Service Award, the highest civilian honor the service offers. The film was dedicated to the memory of Tony Scott. So, out of all 15 facts, which one blew your mind the most? Was it the stunt pilot who lost his life, the 5 rock stars who turned down Danger Zone, or the fact that the most famous recruitment statistic in movie history turned out to be a myth? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into classic movie history, hit subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a video like this one. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.